Good evening, Mark.
Good evening to you, Paul.
So, for anyone who doesn't know Mark Jordan, he's an artist and he does films as well.
Yeah.
You did the Queerchester documentary, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes, yeah.
And he's wearing a fantastic shirt tonight.
Where've we gone?
No, still there.
Okay, let me just get the picture back up because something's gone wrong here.
No, you don't want to lose me.
There we go. Okay, yeah, I'm wearing a 1975 Sex shirt, Anarchy shirt by Miss Westwood and Mr. McLaren.
Is that a Vivienne Westwood shirt?
Yeah, it's from 1975. It's from Sex.
Is
Before
it?
they changed the name to the dictionary, Sex Pistols. You have to tell people that sometimes,
Yeah.
Sex Pistols. Yeah, just show me age. Sorry there, Paul.
No, it happens to us all, doesn't it?
Yeah. But it was, we want to start off with that period. It was great clothes for gay drag, queer drag, having sexually ambiguous punks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, come on, we'll get up there.
No, that's a great start. So, tell me when you first started going out. We were chatting briefly then, weren't we? And you mentioned Liverpool.
Yeah. Well, quite weird because getting back to punk after I'd worked at Eric's nightclub at the punk and it was shut by the police.
Did you work at Eric's?
I used to work at Eric's, yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. He's just seeing bands that were support acts become big ones, or because it was two separate rooms, and you start off as a glass collector before you went to the level of barman. Sometimes you'd walk in, you could pick glasses up, and you'd say to somebody, "Oh, who's this? Who's playing?" And you get people saying, "Oh, the B-50, B-52 or someone." And I'd go,
you saw that?
I'll see him next week.
Yeah.
It was like, "Oh, man, yeah, and I'll see them next week," because you just thought it was going to go on forever, didn't you? Yeah, but met some great bands there. I met Jilted John one night.
Did you?
Yeah, he was before we opened, and then years later when I was working at the Cream tent at the Granada Manchester Festival TV The Art, he was on as Graham Shuttleworth.
Yeah.
And, I had to drive him to his hotel in Salford. And he remembered me. Oh, he didn't remember me straight away. He remembered me. I had a little discussion. Oh, yeah, I remember you. You were blonde hair with black bondage and stuff. That's me. So it was lovely. So, yeah, that music scene died down. And I think a lot of, I'd say my compatriots, my peer group, or slightly older ones, because I was about 18 then, yeah. Like Holly Johnson and Paul Rutherford from the scene, they'd already started to gravitate towards gay disco. And places like famously the Masquerade in Liverpool. So Macmillan's Sunday night became a good gay night for us. But it was really weird stepping out of the punk scene into the gay scene in a strange way. It was so strange that the first night I went to Macmillan's and Gary Allen was DJing, and I wasn't used to music. And I said, "Oh, have you got any madness, mate?" And he was like, "No." So yeah, that became an interesting one. And you know what gay people like? We like to buzz around different cities and see what we can find. So anyway, yeah, Manchester. And Wigan Pier, besides, became good for us as well.
I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, Wigan Pier was playing the stuff that, Bomb the Bass and all the early hip hop stuff that was just like, this is fantastic. This is what we've been waiting for or something else. So is Manchester, the Hacienda. Going to Manchester, I think sometimes it might be naive, but going to Manchester in those days felt like it took hours to get there. But Manchester always felt really progressive.
Yeah.
It always felt a bit more like it was a bit out there, even though I remember in those days, I ended up living in Whitworth Street, but Whitworth Street was dead after Hacienda shut. Well, if you could run over to the other gay bar, what was Archway, you could go into there for 2 more hours. So that was so there was things. But number one, I think, was primarily the West One, because they weren't playing. They're playing gay disco. They were playing hip hop and independent stuff, and I think that's one of the great things that Tim Lennox did, because you sort of sometimes you get categorized, like, if you're punk, you can't like disco. If you're gay, you can't like you're not supposed to. It was supposed to be channeled into different areas of music. And it was great just for people to realise that, some of them we're just into indie music. We were Bowie kids earlier on.
So, what year did Tim Lennox start DJing?
I don't remember. I'm guessing 88, maybe, around that. I can't be definite on that.
Yeah.
Because we were still travelling across, so those years are all a bit compressed. It might be, in fact, it might have been a little bit earlier, because an old friend of mine at Liverpool was also DJing with him, Paul Cassidy, who's sadly not with us anymore. So Paul was actually lived on the corner from me. So
Well, I didn't realise he played indie music as well at first. Tim Lennox.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, and he was he was one of the best DJs. Like we were talking about. Sometimes you go to a club and you don't know what DJ's on, because you're just going for the music, aren't you, really? And you as gay cliche, you lost the music. But I think because in those days, because the DJs were like, right in front of you, really, weren't they? They weren't high up somewhere, or so you could see who was DJing, and you could go over and pester them and ask them for a record. Mind you, when I was DJing in Liverpool at a club called Big Mouth, I hated that when people would come over and ask for records. So there you go.
When you mentioned the Hacienda, what nights were you going at?
I don't remember what night the opening night was, so long ago. But I think Mondays was gay night, wasn't there? Before the Flesh started, they had gay Mondays. But I think we used to go to every. I think there was like Tuesdays and Thursdays, or it was probably free to get in 50p. I don't remember. I remember sometimes going in, spending most of the evening in the early days, sat in the gay traitor bar downstairs because it was warmer. Because the Hacienda, when it first opened, I think there was about a variation of about 5 records they played loop. I think it was Theatre of Fate, New Order, probably, and then the sound would go up the ceiling because it was freezing, so we'd all be there with our overcoats on dancing. But hey, that was the fashion, wasn't it? And then they sort of, and I still remember there was a Barbers underneath called Swing 22, was it? S-Wing, Manson's thing, and then there was actually the DJ box was there as well on the main dance floor.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it used to be sort of, I think it was in the corner of the dance floor, and then later on they moved it upstairs when the stage became open to the punters to dance and stuff.
Yeah.
But we were going to see bands there. Don't forget, there were bands like Psychic TV. We'd go and see. We went to becoming friends with Jen. The Cramps. We'd already seen Eric's, and it was pretty funny because I think the Cramps at that period had been embraced as a rockabilly band, or psychobilly to say, and of course when we saw them, we embraced them as a punk band. And I don't know what the Next Generation did. Why they claimed them as, I don't know. But
did you ever go in Affleck's Palace buying records?
Yes, I did. I did a little bit of a stint on a record store working there years ago. God, it was so different, wasn't it? A bit before, after the fire, when they moved things around. It was pretty basic. But did you say buy records? No, when I was DJing in Liverpool at Big Mouth, I used to come over to remind me Eastern Bloc.
Yeah.
Eastern Bloc. And Martin, who rang Eastern Bloc, would recommend you know, I mean, remember the first thing he sold me in that genre was Future Acid, Future Acid.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know those ones when you first put it on, you thought, am I playing on the right speed? You know, because I think, you know, it wasn't the BPM music hadn't gone up at that time.
Yeah.
But it was still great to feel that bass coming through your stomach.
Yeah, I was like going off what you were saying earlier about like rockabilly, and I just had a memory where that seemed to reflect because the Manchester music scene for me, it was all if punk music could come on. There's a video of Trills on YouTube. So punk music would come and then everyone would get on the dance floor. Then Man Parish would come on and then a certain section would get off the dance floor. And then Eastern Bloc was, I forgot about rockabillys. And you get a lot of rockabillies.
Well, we all had big quiffs then. We all had a big white quiff, yeah.
Yeah, and then it just seemed to all, just became predominantly house music then, didn't it?
Yeah. I just remember, I've just caught your last interview with a guy a few minutes ago, and he was talking about Pips.
Yeah.
Pips, yeah. And we had a sort of something like that in Liverpool, but not as varied, but we did have Bowie and Roxy nights, you know, where we'd all stand on our own doing this and stuff. You know, Bowie and Roxy was a great another one also where straight men could be camp, and I really enjoyed what that guy was saying about the Bowie fans or new fans or whatever it was would come in and do the makeup in the toilet.
Yeah.
And rub it off before, you know.
Yeah.
They go out and face the what they call them, the Perrys then, but
Perry boys, yeah.
Yeah, we have I think we don't know what we call that. And it was really weird. And I'm sure the guy that did the interview will remember that. I remember getting out of punk and going into getting into things like Bauhaus. I'd just seen him in Liverpool play in 1979, I think it was, and I actually had someone living with me in Liverpool who was from Canada, and just caught the tail end of punk. So I gave him a lot of my Vivienne Westwood, you know, Destroy Muslims and T-shirts and stuff like that. And then he buggers off to Bradford in America and becomes a singer with the Cult.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I mean, it was really nice because his brother messaged me a few years ago, Brian, and said, oh, you know, if you had not given us so much to live in Liverpool, we wouldn't have come back and there would have been no Southern Death Cult and no Cult. So I'm waiting for the royalties to come through.
Get more shirts then.
Yeah, but so getting back to the sort of androgynous or Bowie or Human Kids or whatever, you started to see the people that once called you a queer in the streets or chased you started to get into things like the Human League became more poppy, didn't they? With Don't You Want Me Baby and that, and so when all that music we'd been listening to became more popular, and poor John Fox left Ultravox and left us like, oh, you know, he was the best singer in my opinion. But you saw the ordinary people, for want of a better phrase, getting into that, and then they started to wear like pixie boots and dye their wedges, and we were a bit like, oh, we've been into that for years. And you start to feel cheated, like, you know, you've got into my music, and that was it. So yeah, and then of course it went later on into the sort of mid '80s, and we all went through all the other different musics and a bit of the goth scene and stuff. But and then of course mentioned before, Bomb the Bass, Beat This, etc. It just felt like punk had started again. It really felt like punk.
Yeah.
And you know, it was just fantastic music, and it was also like people were dressing up again. People were starting to dress and go out dressed. And one of the things is there's a lot of people don't dress by day anymore. Never mind by night; they don't dress up by day. You know, I'd long for the day again when you can see men and women like Peter Lindberns walking around in full rubber outfits. You know, by daytime, I just wish it would happen again, but I don't think we're ever going to see that, braveness anymore.
You worked with Derek Jarman, didn't you?
Yes, I'd been a fan of Derek Jarman again, getting back to the punk days after seeing Jubilee. I don't know if you've ever heard of or seen Jubilee with.
Yeah, I tried to watch it recently, and it's probably hasn't dated very well, has it? Like,
Yeah, well, my other half's the same, can't stand it, but
yeah,
I think when you're from that era, I think you get it a bit more.
yeah,
Fantastic film. But anyway, I'd seen that at the Liverpool Polytechnic at the time, showing it, and I don't know, just something resonated with me. So, as opposed to nowadays, you couldn't just go on the internet and type in Derek Jarman or Andy Warhol or anything. You had to go to a library, didn't you, or seek out places that the people like you to do the research on these artists or filmmakers. I started to catch up with some of the Super 8 films, and then I just fell in love with his technique, like moving paintings, and also there was no fear in him showing homoerotic imagery,
yeah,
and stuff like that. So that was another way you can break into your gayness on an official art level,
yeah,
so you like use that excuse, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you can make the same about the eye doing their makeup in the bogs, you can slowly break into it that way, and no one cares, Yeah, so I was Derek. It was great meeting Derek Jarman because he just had he was just installing his exhibition called Queer in Manchester at the art galleries, and I was, I was going around the time with my video camera trying to capture everything that was going on at the time. I don't know why, I just wanted to see what was going on, build up an archive of it. And I'd made an in-house video, the one just was supposed to stand there watching an art gallery, but you don't. I never watched.
yeah.
And he'd seen it and he really liked it, and then he invited me to carry on filming him, and then to go to Milan with him to film him in Milan. So I applied for a Northwest Arts grant of £100 to get my airfare to Milan, and lo and behold, it was refused because it wasn't seen as a viable project.
Oh,
And I still think, okay,
yeah,
Anyway, so he got back from Milan, and I was still doing various things with him. And I suppose the most important thing was having access. But Derek, I don't know why, just wanted me to. I know why, because I remember talking to him, and he was really keen after me interviewing him at the Queer exhibition. He was really keen in somebody taking note of his artwork rather than just his films.
yeah,
He was so I think he was really keen on somebody capturing the art rather than talking about his movies or everything. So so that's why him and his agent at the time, his dealer, would invite me down to South Kensington, London, and I had the opportunity to, I think, for a couple of days to film Derek, interview Derek, and watch him creating what were going to be his final paintings that we didn't know were going to be his final paintings. And they were supposed to be ready for New York or somewhere. And it was so I was just capturing him, which was really great. Derek, and he was going blind. He was going blind at the time, so it was interesting because he was having direct, a young guy, I've forgotten his name. I will soon. It's awful. I've forgotten his name. He was applying the paint to the canvas as well. Derek's sitting there, sort of put more blue on, do this, and you had to wonder how much vision Derek had at that time. What was his interpretation of paintings?
yeah,
And another thing I loved about Derek Jarman is that he would put words over his canvases, and I'd done that in 1983, 84 at Art College Liverpool, and I was slammed for it. That's not fine art. You're a graphic artist, and I was like, I'm just doing what I wanted to do at the time. Like I used to use spray paint and stuff. I think I sort of poisoned half of the students with my spray paint. So he was really good. And what he was good at me, Derek, and both I've got the other guy's name, in this environment. And Derek would just say, what should we call this painting? and he would come up with different, he goes come with different names, and I just have offered a few suggestions. I think I offered Dizzy Bitch, which ended up becoming the name of more of the paintings, Dizzy Bitch. I think, I'm not sure, Evil Queen was my suggestion. And then the other one was Batty Boy, because you remember the time we were going around that we were having a lot of extreme, abuse, and he went, "Oh, he loved Batty Boy." He said, "I love Batty Boy." And we said, "It's even better than Queer, isn't it?" But unfortunately, he died sort of halfway through me collecting all this footage. And I'd already, unfortunately, gone to Granada TV with the final ones to accept it. We had to change the name of the documentary around, because my initial brief for the documentary was I was spending a lot of time in New York as well, and sometimes in San Francisco, and I was looking at during the AIDS crisis, and I was looking at the graffiti spray paint that were the gay community, especially in New York, on what was the West Side Highway, and sort of the famous, jetties and stuff, which I think were cruising areas. And now it's all billion-dollar apartments. But I was really interested in the way they were documenting AIDS crisis, and even spraying on sidewalks. I even spraying on sidewalks in New York. My boyfriend was queer bashed here, so I was collecting all that, and I'd taken Quentin Crisp for lunch and wanted his interpretation.
Quentin Crisp?
I took him for lunch, and he was another not crazy, but he was so every time I would turn the camera on with Quentin Crisp, I would get the Quentin Crisp we all know, oh, as soon as I saw New York, I wanted it. And then, so I turn it off, and then I get the Quentin Crisp button you never knew of. We were talking about his family in Brazil, all these things that you didn't know. I'd like to say to him, well, whatever happened to the great dark man? Oh, he got married, and and all this. So I'd try and sort of push the button on without seeing the camera light coming on, and he'd go back into Quentin Crisp. But he was, and so I was at that time. There were so many ideas in my head going around of what I wanted to do. I call things queer. I wanted to see how the LGBT community was reacting to all the things around them. So that was just collecting stuff. So that was quite fortunate. I was actually given access to people.
I loved your Queerchester documentary, and what I've been doing is try to get people on the scenes in Manchester rather than the DJs. 'Cause we've all heard their stories, and they were great. But I always think it misses. We don't hear from the people on the scenes, and I always think that the gay village, especially like the number one club, and then the way Manto's. Yeah. I mean, it's like a mini Ibiza, wasn't it? And I don't see how you can miss that out of the story of Manchester music.
No, of course not. I mean, they obviously just go hand in hand. But I always think one was impossible without the other, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And it was a great time. As I say, again, it felt like a new punk. There were drag queens on the streets by day and by night. There was all sort of things going on. There always seemed to be events being put on back at Queer Up North. Oh, and the Hacienda Flesh, of course, with Paul Cons and Lucy Perry, Kath McDermott. They were sort of, again, I'm not saying pushing the boundaries, but giving an alternative avenue in the gay scene. And possibly because, as it mentions in Queerchester, many gay venues previous to that, as we know, had either been underground, hidden away, or blacked out windows, or down a side street where you have to look out. I think it was the same in every town in England, probably not London, but it's probably the same in every. So when you've got the days the world turns day club with people, places like Flesh opening and stuff, and just seeing all these people out traveling for miles, as Billy says in the documentary, people would come from, even London, they would come from London now.
Yeah.
I don't think previously to that you'd heard of anybody traveling up from London to come to a northern club.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that again with Tony Wilson and a very forward-thinking man, and obviously with the city council hand in hand, because you need permission to do all these things, and the opening hours were extended. Again, I think Manchester was at the forefront again of a new scene, a new youth culture, positivity about the gay scene, especially as Manchester Council has been very, very active in helping the HIV awareness and stuff. So all these things came hand in hand as well. And it really was like, I know the word queer is contentious with some people, and some people it isn't. As Derek Jarman said in the documentary, people can call themselves whatever they want, and I do find there's a distinction between queer and gay.
Yeah.
And I like the word queer. I know it sounds. If someone else calls you, it depends who you are. But I do think being an ex-punk and doing this and that, I think queer fits my agenda, because I find queer is a bit more subversive than gay. Although there's nothing wrong with the word gay at all. It's a very, it was great for its time, and whatever you want to call yourself. But I do think that, it did become Queerchester, drag queens, whatever you want to call,
Wasn't there some of your work you said that they wouldn't show it at the corner house?
Oh, yeah. Band at the corner house. I did these. I can't show you. I'm not in the room here with me downstairs. Screenshot of Derek Jarman from my documentary, and with the frames then reflected. Actually, it was on Velvet. Velvet did show it. The frames reflected the sort of discussions I was having with Derek at the time, and one was use of the word gay, and the other words that we use or we don't use, whatever. So I'd put around the frames, queer, bumboy, faggot, homo. Fine, but the corner house, the bastion of liberal coffee drinkers, didn't show it. They refused to have it up, which just made me even more adamant. You know what I mean? So,
you were too punk for them.
I just find it a bit strange. Censorship, okay, I understand censorship if it's because you are offending other minorities or other people's society. I can get on board with that. I just think that how many queers were going to the corner house and having coffee and cake every day? Loads of them, So
yeah,
that was another one. Yeah, spanned from the corner house. That reminds me of getting back to. So I was also working with Jamie Reid, the Sex Pistols artist. I'd met him in the mid-'80s and continued to work with him and film him. And he had an exhibition at the corner house on as well at the same time, or not the same time, around the area. And I remember one of the things that happened with Jamie Reid was that you weren't allowed to take your drinks into the exhibition. So that was another one where, it was a bit like, even Jamie was laughing, can't even bring drinks in, So I think so maybe when Jamie was still drinking, possibly that was probably the reason why he got knocked about it. So,
are you going to the Hacienda Fred's night tomorrow?
I am not. I've been invited, and I really want to go. Because of what we've been talking about now, but I can't. It's my birthday.
How is it your birthday tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm 63. I thought when you got to 63, I didn't think that, I'd love to have gone. And also, I didn't know you were going. I didn't know Tiger was going. So
Yeah.
To the made alternative. But it's really nice as well that they're using from Queerchester these sections about Murray and Verne fetish fashion show at the Hacienda. Yeah, they're using that
Yeah.
on the screen as well. Because as you were just saying then as well, you got people like Murray and Verne, fetish fashion designers who were based in the middle of, they were in Whitworth Street and Manto's and Paradise Factory. And I think also there was a great creative hub there. And that's another thing about Manchester. It sort of embraces creative hubs
Yeah.
of people working together to do things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter. I mean, sometimes you can't remember the names, but there are also other people, individuals who've helped push the fashion limits or push the music. Look, you've got people like State 808 or the Mondays, ordinary lads from Manchester, creating brilliant stuff, haven't you?
You know what? You've lived through, pardon me, 2 revolutions with punk and acid house, and now we're getting older, aren't we? And do you think there's going to be another, or do you think we've done it all?
I don't. Yeah, maybe I sound negative and an old. Was it baby? I remember a baby boomer. I don't know. I've seen it all before.
Yeah.
I don't think we are. No, I don't think we are. I don't think we're ever going to see people creating a really their own stuff as much. There is a new youth group. They are doing what they need to do for themselves. They are creating art and music, but I think with social media and technology, they've been far too influenced, or maybe they're not being influenced enough what they need to be. So I remember when I was teaching and I showed one of our students a picture of me in all this Vivian Westwood bondage gear. And this was a girl with the big baggy trousers and the piercings and the dyed black hair. She went, "Oh, we're not worried about looking gay." And that was just the point, you look gay. And I just looked, okay, So, I don't think there's going to be a subversive fashion or music anymore. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think sometimes I think it's because I'm getting older, and if something happened that I might just be too old for it anyway. But when I was at school, then you got the piss took out of you if you listened to old music. And it was very much when punk came out, especially, you didn't look back, did you? But then the younger people now seem to be interested in our scenes and people look back.
I think that's the nostalgia thing. It's probably people like me still wanting to wear this. It's probably nostalgia. But I think it was William Burroughs who said something like, you have to understand it. You have to be there. You have to experience it all. You can't just go into YouTube and watch a video of the time or something. And we were talking weren't we, about one of my contentions is watching documentaries on punk. With no punk music in there because they haven't got the rights, and sometimes mostly made by people who weren't even there. So it's no, that's wrong and all this or whatever. But I don't think we're ever going to get something as controversial or as in your face or anymore. And I think that's an interesting thing about today's new LGBT or queer scene. I don't know. I can't put my finger on what I want to say about it, but I think maybe all of us when we're teenagers, we're shocking, don't we? And we're the only ones, and we know the best.
Yeah,
I'll leave that one at that.
So we've got about 5 minutes left.
Oh.
So Billy had a great idea on one of my last ones, because I don't know how to end these sometimes. And Billy just said, he just took me by surprise, and he said, "Name your favourite track in the Paradise era. So I think for you, I'm gonna put you on the spot and I'm
My
gonna say,
favourite
give me
track.
one track from the Paradise era and Flesh era, and give me one track from the punk era.
Okay, right. So the punk one's going to be easier. It's probably first of all the first one I ever heard was Gary Gilmore's "Eyes" by the Adverts, which my mum got me into because she was working in gay bars. So she was serving people like Peter Lynn Burns in the gay bars she worked at. So that's when I first saw them in the Army Navy stores. My mum was waving at them. My favourite Sex Pistols track is going to have to be "Submission," and
Oh wow,
I mean that's my favourite. Harder to name the ones in the Paradise because I don't. Sometimes I didn't even know the names of the artists on the track anyway.
yeah,
And also mixing records had become de rigueur then, hadn't they? So blending one to another, you didn't get that with punk. You didn't blend in.
yeah,
Mix
yeah.
records. There were standalone tracks. What do I still love now? I still love "Give Me Love" by Alcatraz.
Oh, all right, yeah,
I still love that track for some reason. I think it's the heavy at the beginning.
yeah,
But what I should really do now is mention Queerchester. The intention, of course, was to give a sort of potted history of how Manchester's gay scene developed and why the word queer became important in outlook and behaviour. But also to thank the people who took part in it. It's the DJs, David Hoyle, Murray and Verne were great, of course, because we had stuff, but I had the footage of the fashion show. It's just a shame I couldn't get hold of everybody I wanted to.
yeah,
And of course, I had the intentions of it being on the silver screen in Manchester,
yeah,
a home or place. And maybe the next version will do that. I'm going to re-edit. But Tiger was really, really positive because I was sort of despairing about the lack of, access to cinema screens. When Tiger was reminding me, saying, "Well, I'm 63." He said, "There are people of our era that don't live in Manchester anymore, and that might be disabled or too old or to get out. Getting out on a Thursday night in a rainy Manchester to go to a cinema is a bit of a hard push.
yeah,
Put it on YouTube. You're gonna, and that means anybody who lives anywhere else in the world, except you can see it." And you're a bit hesitant at first, thinking, "No, YouTube, not really that my kind of, But he was right. It's like YouTube has taken over. I think, TV and stuff and that. So
yeah,
we got over like, was it 1,500 views in the first, and mostly 99.9% positive reviews. People really enjoying the fact that they've seen themselves or someone had documented and presented to them what we went through.
Yeah.
And we enjoyed it. We had a brilliant time, except for the fact that we lost quite a few friends along the way.
Yeah.
But yes, it was I'd say Manchester, it was mint. It was top.
So for anyone watching that, I will put a link for that video description. And I'll endorse it. It's absolutely brilliant. Thanks so much for doing this with me.
I can't believe it's gone so quickly. I'm just looking at the clock on the Mac here. Wow.
Yeah.
I did say to you, didn't I? You say no, you'll find it hard. And I was like, no, I'm a gobby scouser. I'll just go on all night. If you let me.
Well, I'll just stop you now. And
Thanks anyway.